And I now recognize Mr. Johnson for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ask unanimous consent to enter into the record today this statement by Sheriff Greg Champagne. He's the former president, current second vice president, and chair of Legal Affairs Committee of the National Sheriff's Association. Without objection, I hope.
Without objection, you hope rightly.
Thank you, thank you. I stated earlier, my questions are going to be for Mr. Johnson, and just by review for everyone listening, he's the executive director and general counsel of the National Association of Police Organizations, and grateful he can be with us by Zoom. There are a number of Democrat politicians I mentioned earlier who have spent the last several years, I mean, this is just a fact, and facts are stubborn things, as John Adams said, trying to take funding and resources away from police departments. I mean, that's just what happened. It seems insane to us. I think people are recognizing how crazy the idea is, but they've argued, ironically, that somehow this will make communities safer. And we don't have to look far to find individuals who have advocated for those things. In fact, we've got several on this very committee. I mean, with respect, Committee Chairman Nadler was asked a while back whether the New York Police Department budget should be cut, and he said, yes, it certainly should be cut, quote unquote. Mr. Johnson of Georgia serves on our Judiciary Committee. He was asked whether he supports defunding the police. He said, quote, we certainly can repurpose some of the funding, unquote. And of course, Ms. Bush, who serves on this committee, spent approximately $200,000 in her campaign funds on private security detail last year, by the way. She's a leader, of course, of the defund the police movement. Every single one of my Democrat colleagues on this subcommittee have voted to end qualified immunity. So this is not, these aren't political talking points, these are the facts. We have a disagreement on this very important issue. Mr. Johnson, question, how does it, what is your response when you hear politicians who voice support for defunding the police when you serve law enforcement members across the country who put their lives on the line every day to protect their communities?
Thank you, Ranking Member. As a political question, I think that mantra is dying away. There certainly are some members of some political officials who continue to tout that, and some who say that, in fact, the Democratic Party, or whatever party it is, hasn't gone far enough in a progressive direction. I think that's incorrect. I think that the members of Congress and other elected officials who have been around longer realize that message as a political message didn't sell well in 2020, certainly didn't sell well in 2021 in the elections in Virginia and New Jersey and so forth. Leaving aside the politics of it, just in terms of, I guess, the reality of men and women on the ground, whether you're a police officer or not, I think public safety is the primary value without which nothing else in a community can happen. Good schools, small business, people relocating to your community, none of that happens unless people feel safe in the community. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that people want police officers in their communities. They want ethical, honest, diligent police officers, but they want police officers. They want public safety.
And they need it. And even though it was political talking points and a political proposal and thing they were trying to advance, it had real world consequences. And so the recruitment and the retention of police clearly has been affected by this defund the police movement, and also by, I mean, we would imagine the eradication of qualified immunity. I've talked to law enforcement officers and sheriffs and police chiefs in my district, and they're deeply concerned that if qualified immunity were somehow to go away or be diminished, they would not be able to recruit and retain officers. Is that a real concern?
It is, and it's already happening. Qualified immunity is one facet of a public campaign in some ways to demonize the police or to blame the police for a lot of problems that they didn't create, but that somehow we find ourselves responsible at 2 o'clock in the morning when you call. We're the people that show up here to say that there aren't people who shouldn't be police officers for whatever given reason, and when they're found out, they should be terminated, they should be prosecuted. All that has to happen. But in terms of policing itself, clearly the continual mantra amongst not all, but some elected officials, among the media, that the police are somehow to blame for society's ills. It's inaccurate. And police, just like any other group, whether it's accountants or pharmacists or mechanics or air conditioning repair people, if constantly all you're hearing and your family is hearing is that you're part of the problem, that you're brutal, you're racist, you're ignorant, you can't be helped, you need to be reformed, this is just how they are, certainly it's detrimental to the morale and the effectiveness of any profession. And police are no exception to that.
Thank you for articulating that. I'm out of time, but I want to say, as you noted, this is not rocket science. We need to apply common sense here. I yield back.